Hey everybody, I'm Mark Wendell. I'm a product manager at Microsoft. And today I'm going to show you how you can add world-class collaboration experiences to your SharePoint embedded applications. Before I start talking about how you can add those collaboration experiences to your SharePoint embedded apps, so I want to give you a quick primer on what SharePoint embedded is for those that aren't yet familiar. At a high level, SharePoint Embedded, like its name implies, provides a way for you to embed SharePoint storage into your custom applications. It's a headless platform as a service. It offers a set of pay-as-you-go APIs, so it's consumptive billing, and those are on Microsoft Graph. It allows your application to store and manage content in an M365 tenant. And by doing that, it effectively allows you to create a custom content partition that your app manages inside your user's tenant. So with SharePoint Embedded, you can bring core content management capabilities, Office desktop and web collaboration, and security trim search experiences to your custom application by default. It's just built right into the platform. So today we're going to focus on those rich collaboration experiences that you can add with SharePoint Embedded. The innovation that makes it all possible, though, is that content is stored inside an M365 tenant. So even if you're making a multi-tenant application with SharePoint Embedded, that content is stored inside your customer's tenant. And the benefits of the platform aren't just for you as an app developer. If you're an administrator of a tenant who is using an application that's built on SharePoint Embedded, you get a whole bunch of benefits from the platform too. So first off, you don't need to grant broad permissions to a custom app. You can grant it access to manage its own content partition inside of your tenant. And it doesn't give it access to any other data within your organization like OneDrive, SharePoint, or any other application content. And you can also choose to allow that one particular app to have external sharing as well without opening up external sharing to other applications like OneDrive or SharePoint or even other SharePoint embedded applications. And most importantly, like by ensuring that those custom applications are storing content inside your tenant, all of the existing security and compliance capabilities that you get through Microsoft Purview and other means are just going to be part of that application's content by default. It all comes right out of the box. And so that's a big value add with SharePoint Embedded by choosing to make sure that your apps are built on SharePoint Embedded. Just in terms of information architecture, before we get into the collab, a little bit of background. SharePoint Embedded, like I said, it stores content inside an M365 tenant, and the unit that it stores that content in is something called a file storage container. Effectively, it's a headless SharePoint partition for your app, and within these containers, so the app can create these file storage containers that it manages and gets to control accessing content and the experiences of accessing content within those file storage containers. Each of those containers are a security boundary, and an app can have many containers within a tenant, and it can, of course, be a multi-tenant application with many containers across many different tenants. And so ultimately, file storage containers are kind of like a headless document library within SharePoint. From an API perspective, though, they are really just a drive in Microsoft Graph, and we're going to take a look at that in a second. So you can use your existing drive and drive item code, if you've got it, to be able to manage content within SharePoint Embedded. All right, so let's talk about how you can bring these world-class collaboration experiences to your custom applications with SharePoint Embedded. This is kind of an overview, and then we're going to get into like, hey, exactly how do you do it? Like what does this look like in our sample application? And what do the API calls look like to actually make this happen in your app? But first of all, Office. So you can bring, like I said, world-class collaboration experiences into your custom application that you've built on SharePoint Embedded by bringing Office capabilities to your users. And so you get full fidelity, editing and collaboration experiences right from your app. So you can choose to open things up in web, Office for web, or Office desktop, and not just like managing the content of files, but all of the other collab capabilities that users have come to expect from Office, like sharing, commenting, and app mention. You can bring those to your custom application. And importantly, no license is required. And so if you're building, a custom app, whether you're going to, deploy that to your own tenant as a line of business application, or you're going to make a multi-tenant app, You don't need to worry about whether the users of your application have a license for Office or SharePoint or anything else. It just works by default. Because it's consumptive billing, you don't need to do a license check and they can use Office within your application. We also have the ability to preview files. And so our very capable preview client allows you to render numerous different types of files, also directly from your custom application. You can either do that in a new browser window or tab, or you can actually iframe it directly in your application experiences. And we're going to take a look at all that as well. Lots of different file types it supports, but you can take a look at like PDFs, images, audio, video, 3D models, and more. So really capable preview client that you can use to, bring renderings of files directly into your application. So that's an overview looking at how you can actually do it. So in Office, you can open things up in Office for Web. And specifically, and we're going to take a look at this with the demo later, you look at you get the drive item for that Office document that's within one of those file storage container that I was talking about. And you get the web URL property, and all you have to do is open that up in a browser. It'll automatically adapt depending on what permission that the user has for that document. But if you want them to open it read-only, you can just change the action parameter to view, and then it'll be opened up as read-only. If you want to open up a file in desktop, there's kind of, you got to send it to one of those Office desktop protocol handlers, and we're going to actually do it in a second. But you can open it directly from the app by constructing a client URL. It's probably too hard to read here, but ultimately you can open up directly in Office desktop, Office, Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, just using these protocol handlers. I'll show you what that looks like in a second, but it's basically just a specific syntax on the protocol, and you can open up directly in Office, which is pretty cool, right from your own custom application. So for previewing files, like I said, there's a built-in preview client. It supports a wide range of files. Pretty straightforward for doing that. I'm going to show you how it works as well. But ultimately, you've got this drive item that you want to render a preview for in your application. You just post to that item /preview link on that drive item. And that will return a URL, and then you can just open that up either in a browser or set that as the source for an iframe, and it will render that. Content right in there. A couple things that allow you to kind of also control some of the collaboration experiences outside of your app. So when you're building an app on SharePoint Embedded, I mentioned that your app gets to make file storage containers, and it gets to control all of the experiences of accessing content within those containers. So you can choose whether you want to open up this collab that we're showing. But one of the things that you can do if you want is also have that content show up in other M365 experiences. Now, it doesn't show up there by default, so it is disabled by default. But if you choose to enable it, then that content is going to show up as recent or shared items in other M365 experiences like office.com, the Office clients, or other, like you can search for it and other stuff like that. So by enabling that, you can also drive users, who are existing OneDrive, SharePoint, Office users. They can see that recent content from your application, and they can click on it and go directly to your app as well. So that's another way to kind of drive interaction for your SharePoint Embedded app. And then one other thing before we kind of get into the demos, there's also the ability to control sharing settings. So by default, if you have write access to a file, so in fact, if somebody shared a file with me, I have the ability to reshare that within SharePoint Embedded, just as you can with OneDrive and SharePoint. But we do have a setting that lets you enable restricted sharing. And if you choose to do that, then it basically controls who's allowed to reshare that content. You have to explicitly be an owner or a manager on that file storage container in order to be able to reshare the content. Otherwise, the reshare experience is going to be disabled. That's really for folks that are writing applications that you want to be a little more secure, and you want to ensure that all of the permissions are controlled within your app's logic. Then you can enable restricted sharing and choose to do that. All right, one more slide before we get into some demos, and it's just a plug for a virtual event that we're having next week. In fact, it's going to be on Tuesday next week, 8 a.m. Pacific time and 6:30 p.m. Pacific time. There's a couple of registration links there at ak.ms/SPE-December AM or PM. I'll put those links in the chat when I'm done speaking. But we're going to have, I think, a 90-minute session in there if you want to come to one of those. And we're going to give an overview of some of the SharePoint embedded content and do a deeper dive on some of the other concepts, not just collaboration that I'm going to talk about and show you how to do today, but also, enabling Copilot and compliance and other capabilities that you get with SharePoint embedded. And just basically learn how you can build awesome SharePoint embedded applications next year. So if you're interested, you can go register at those links. And without further delay, we're going to get into some demos. So I'm going to exit PowerPoint and I'm going to open up VS Code quickly. And again, just another quick plug. If you haven't come across it already, we're going to take a look at the SharePoint Embedded Visual Studio Code extension just quickly. You can get it from the Visual Studio Code Marketplace by just searching for SharePoint Embedded. I've already got it installed. When you have it installed, it shows up here in the activity pane. When you click on it, you can sign in and see all of your different applications or container types. These are really just, each app has its own container type. And I want to show you how you can set up the sample application that we're going to take a look at. So once you have created a container type within the Visual Studio Code extension, you can click on your app. There's a few things that you can do. You can set up Postman to be able to explore the APIs. You can run sample apps, and that's what I've done here today. So I've actually gone through these steps ahead of time just to save a bit of time. And I'm running the TypeScript and React as your function sample app in the background. I've already got it running in the terminal. Once you do that, though, all you have to do is run npm run start. That'll boot up the app with all of the settings injected from your container type and other settings that you've had set up. I've already got this app running though, so I'm going to navigate to a browser window, and here this is just what that app looks like. You can explore content and control the experiences of what content exploration looks like in your custom application as you see fit, depending on the use case that you're looking to enable. This is just really meant to show, what it looks like with the content that we've got in here. So I'm going to upload some files just to get started here. And it may take a few seconds, depending on my connection here. Looks like there's a couple pending, and one of those is the video file, so it will take a few seconds to get that uploaded. So I'm gonna have a sip of coffee while that happens. And once that's done, it should automatically refresh, and we'll be just looking at those files that I uploaded within my SharePoint embedded file storage container that we're looking at. And then I'm going to show you in this app what some of those collaboration experiences can look like in your custom application, and just how you can open things up in Office for Web or Office Desktop, or how you can preview files, or even how you can download an Office document as a PDF, or other use cases like that. This looks like I'm going to turn off my video for a second. This looks like it's taking forever to upload this last remaining video file. I might just refresh the page and cancel that one. Let's see. There we go. All right, so I'll ignore that video file for a second. But anyways, I've got one of these documents selected. So I selected this Word document, and I just want to show you some of the options that we have here. So in this app, I've chosen to provide the ability to open up in desktop or web, or I can open it up as a PDF or preview it in a web. So these are this is the Office experience in desktop and web. Opening it as a PDF is just going to be a preview, and these are just preview as well. So I'm going to open up in the web just to show you what that looks like. And you can see this is how I've chosen to enable, basically I can open up an Office document directly in my SharePoint embedded application. And we can get, all of the rich commenting experiences and collaboration experiences. I can mention people and stuff like that. So everything that, users have come to expect with Office Collab is available to them. You can open up Word, Excel, and PowerPoint files as well. But I wanted to show you what, if you take a look at these options, I want to show you what that looks like from an API level as well before we get into some of the other capabilities. So this is Microsoft Graph Explorer. And I've actually got, this is that container that we're looking at. We're just going to run that query. So all I'm doing is enumerating the items in here. We'll see the stuff that we literally just uploaded here. So this is that document that we were just looking at. And you see the web URL property of the drive item. So that's exactly how, like, in the web app experience that you were just looking at, if I go to this web URL, so if I can grab this link and copy that to my clipboard, you can see that when I open up a new tab here, that's how you render it for Office for web. So all you're doing is grabbing that web URL property and visiting it in a browser window from the drive item, and that's how you actually can just immediately open it up in Office. Now, if we want to open that up in desktop, we grab this web dev URL property, so it's just a different path, and you have to construct that link. So I'm going to copy that, and we're going to construct that link together if I can remember the protocol. So it's MS Word, if I can spell it properly, and then just a colon, and then it's open for edit, and then I pass the URL property, and then I paste it there. So when I do that, I believe if I've done everything correctly, it's going to ask me if I want to open up this Word document. That's just the native browser experience. And you can see now it's opened it up for Word on my desktop machine. So that's pretty cool. You can open those up directly from your custom application directly in the Office experiences. All right, so now let's go back to our sample app, and we'll just take a look at some of the other things that we can do. So another thing that we can do is generate. Actually, let's go to this. Let's say PowerPoint here. Oh, no, maybe actually, let me go to the PDF, and I'm going to go into Open here, and we can preview a PDF. So I'm going to click on that. And this should render, now this is an iframe version of it, and I can open it up directly in a browser window. This is what it, allows you to effectively preview a whole bunch of different file types. So that's what it looks like in my applications. That's the app experience. As I mentioned, you can also do video. So, and this is like, it's not just, grabbing the file, it's actually transcoding it on the server. And that's one of the cool things with SharePoint Embedded is that you can actually, stream media directly from it as well as, other more interesting file types like 3D models and stuff like that. So pretty cool. These are kind of some of the preview experiences that you can enable in your custom application. I'll show you what that looks like though. So if we go to the PDF, let's go back to Graph Explorer, and we will find this long-term ad campaign goals PDF. If I want to just grab this drive item ID for it, and I think I've got a preview thing ready to go. Where is that? Yeah, so let's go over to this one. Yeah, okay, so this is the Graph Explorer request to be able to generate a preview link. So all I have to do is, this is the particular container that we're looking at, and here's the drive item. I got to give it, the updated drive item because I just uploaded this file. I'm going to post a blank body to it. And hopefully, if my access token is still valid, we're going to get back this get URL. That is the preview link. And this is exactly, using this link, I can either set that as the source for an iframe in my app, which is what you saw before, or I can visit that directly. There is one extra parameter that I'm going to put, which is no banner. By default, it will show a OneDrive banner if that's part of the client. So I just added that. And you can see that's the preview of this PDF. Again, exact same thing. If I want to stream video, I can just open that up in the preview client right there. So that's some of the experiences that you can get with SharePoint Embedded, and how you can kind of enable some of the rich collaboration experiences with Office and Preview, and how you can have that stuff show up in some of the other M365 experiences. Again, we'll preview a file in here if this PNG wants to load. one last plug for the virtual event happening next week. I'll paste these registration links over in the chat when I'm done. But if you're interested in learning more about how you can enable collaboration in your apps or Copilot, core content management, and compliance as well, go ahead and register for that and get this free virtual session next week. Thank you very much for the time. That's it.